Therefore, do not be anxious, saying, what shall we eat? Or what shall we drink? Or with what shall we be clothed? For all these things the Gentiles are anxiously seeking. For your heavenly Father knows that you need all these things. But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. Matthew 6:31-33. This week's episode concludes the series entitled 8 Points of Fellowship, spoken to the younger generation of saints in the Pacific Northwest on November 15, 2009. In this episode, Brother Ron Kangas responds to questions submitted by the audience. A link to the full audio can be found in the episode notes.
But we do have a little time now. And I'm not going to try to goad or draw out anything. It's what you want to do. Maybe you feel we should pray for 5 minutes. Maybe you want to testify something. Maybe you want to ask something. I have no idea. I honor the headship of the Lord's Spirit. If your feeling is to pray, you pray, we'll follow you. Then we can fellowship or ask questions, because I sincerely do not know what to do for the next 20 minutes. That's up to the Lord and you. So temporarily, I'll take my water and sit down and see what happens. Okay? Amen. I'm sitting down now. Okay.
Question. I don't know if it's appropriate. So my husband and I, we didn't grow up in the church life, so we didn't get the opportunity to go to the full-time training, because after we touched the church life, we were already married and with kids. And we both have a burden for the middle-age training, but it's kind of a mystery to us as far as how that works with kids and jobs and any of that. So I don't know if anybody's ever been to the middle-age training or can share a little of their testimony or any information on that.
To have the aspiration to be trained, that is really precious. And when the Lord puts such an aspiration in us, He does have the intention of eventually giving us the opportunity to work itself out. Most of those, there are a few exceptions, but most of those in the full-time training are of such an age that their children are not living with them as dependents. They might be in college at least, or they're beyond college age. We've had cases of a single mom who may have a child in elementary school. Then the living situation is quite good. They're living with a family or with another older sister. But you need to consider, really without frustration, what is your practical environment and your human situation, to see whether it would be prudent, whether it would be practical for you to go to the full-time training at the present time. One way the Lord leads us or confirms His leading of us is through the environment. And in this case, the environment would need to be at least that there's the financial support that would enable both of you to be in the training at the same time, that there would be a suitable living situation for you and your children and for their education during the year or so you would be in the training. And the principle we follow concerning support, and I'm not attributing anything to you, this is the principle. Our heart is never to burden the church or to burden others. Never to do something in so-called faith which places pressure on others. But there would need to be a clear and definite provision and opening. If that is not forthcoming, then I know this is not a word we'd like to hear, but I've spent most of my life doing this. We wait and believe that in your present church life and in your human life, the Lord will also train you. I never went to a full-time training. Never went. Here we are, brothers are trainers who never went to a full-time training. But let me tell you, perhaps with a happy glint in my eye, we got trained. We got trained. And if you express the aspiration and the church knows of this, then now it's in the fellowship of the body, then just be at peace. You're married, you have a family, this is the Lord's provision. Your best years are not behind you. Your best years are ahead. And the Lord will have a way to fulfill what He has put in you regarding being trained. So it seems to me that you would meet the minimum age qualification for middle age. But your practical situation may not allow this. But that decision is based upon what provision comes from the Lord and based upon the fellowship of the brothers. Regarding the fellowship of the brothers, you can trust them, that they'll be one with the Lord and they'll be faithful. But having said this, maybe this is a quasi-prophecy, or maybe it's just an expression of hope. See you in the training sometime. Anything else that I need to respond to? Okay, Andrew.
I don't know how to best express this, but I have a question concerning the balance between our life of consecration and being Jesusly human. And, as a parent of 3 children, and many of us, we all want to see our children live a normal human life and to be gained for the Lord in the church life. But on the other hand, as part of the church life, there are many constraints on our time, and there's meetings and there's service, and this is something that I've been grappling with. How do we care for our families in the proper? I mean, you shared some of this, but I'd like to hear a little bit more concerning how do we. And I know that even our children, the Lord has their own course for them, and they may not all make it into church life. But I've seen many who have been so given for the church life that sometimes the children suffer.
Yeah.
And I don't want to go either extreme, but this is just my nature. I think the nature of brothers, especially, to go extreme. So I was looking for a little bit more fellowship.
Okay, I can offer more fellowship, but there's no how as far as the method. There are some, they're not competing principles, but they're balancing principles that operates simultaneously. And you and your wife before the Lord will need to consider what you need to do at any given time, what you need to do with each particular child. Because the second one ain't going to be anything like the first, probably. The first thing I would say is we need to reaffirm the priority. And that is, we're here seeking the kingdom first. And first is Christ and the church. If we invert that and family replaces the church as a priority, we're cutting ourselves off from the Lord's blessing. So the priority is Christ and the church is first. And that's based upon Christ as the burnt offering. This is settled. But many of us, our experience testifies, living out that priority doesn't eliminate the proper investment of time to care for the family. My daughter at a certain point was in gymnastics, so I not only took her to and from, but was at some of her meets. When the boys were younger, they played soccer. I attended many of their games. On one Friday night in Irving, Texas, I was absent from the home meeting because the MacArthur Cardinals were playing the Arlington Colts in the first round of the Class A high school playoffs at Texas Stadium, and it was time for me to be a dad. There was one time on a Thursday night, there was a service meeting, and I felt I had to go. If I didn't go, I would not be seeking first the kingdom. My wife is standing in the hall, very, very pregnant, asking me to stay home. Sorry to say, my concept of absoluteness was I must go. Then that night, her water broke. We had been to childbirth class. She is calling sisters, telling them, I'm going now, I'm going now. And I realize she's already in transition. We've got to move fast. It probably took us 15 years to recover from that one. If I had been enjoying the Lord, if I had been living to the Lord, I would have said, on this Thursday night, wife is first. The service group will get along fine without me. If the brothers think I'm compromised, then just let them think I'm compromised. So there are, within this priority, when we touch the humanity of Jesus, that he will clearly lead us to take some limitations on our church involvement. Brotherly strictly told his co-workers, you must have one night a week for the family. This was his word. And he had 8 children, and he knew the toll of when circumstances disallowed the adequate care. I just know that when we seek the kingdom first and have the priorities, the Father will meet the need, and as the Lord lives in us, we'll realize that I need to take time with the family. I am going to be gone for a week. We're going up to Big Bear at the Golden Bear Lodge. I'm going to be fishing in Big Bear Lake where I think there is no fish. And that's where I need to be. That's where my family needs to be. And somehow the work, the ministry, the church, the Lord's recovery, the kingdom, the body, the one new man was just able to go on fine while I was at Big Bear or at Yosemite or somewhere else. My wife and I, excuse me for being anecdotal, but I think the principles are more living if you see them embodied. We learned to practice, when we could, preventative maintenance. By preventative maintenance was when she realized that I'm nearing the point of depletion and I realized that she needs a break. We went out to Desert Hot Springs for 3 days in the off-season where it was affordable, and we had a very good working relationship with another church family. For 2 or 3 days they take our 3. For a few days we take their 4. It's good for the kids to be together, and somehow it just works out. I just cannot give you a method. I do not know your wife's capacity, but I'm pretty sure your wife is going to have a clearer read of the condition of the marriage and the family than you do. And you need to listen to her and to respect her sense about what the need is. And the Lord will bless that. That's why we can still say, it was in a meeting, I was forgetting to chant. My 39-year-old son says, 8 to 5 to SeaWorld Drive, etc., etc. That's all I can offer you. But our testimony is, and you touch many families. You touch Brother Ed Marks. You touch Brother Rick Scatterday. You touch many families. That we can live out this balance under the priority. Then the Lord will honor the priority of seeking the kingdom first. And He will direct us. The Lord used that brother to tell me, take your family away. Okay? Take a few days off, even from your work. But I had to get through my religious and ethical conscience to be able to do that. My conscience, it's worldly. To see Shamu perform, it's worldly. So excuse now, I'm ending with the most pitiful pun, but I just want to do it. If you go to SeaWorld, you can comfort yourself on seeing God's eternal porpoise. I told you it was pathetic.
Thank you for joining us today. To hear the complete recording and other messages, please visit livingtohim.com. If you would like to receive regular updates from us, please subscribe to this podcast and join our mailing list on our website. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, where our handle is @livingtohim.